Hi there, my name's Rachel. I teach mindfulness at Mindful Therapies. I'm also a psychotherapist and I'm a cat mum. I'm also a human being in a pandemic who can't sleep. So at the time of recording, it is Friday the 13th of November and it is 2:45 in the morning. And I thought, rather than waiting until I'm awake, alert, and have full makeup on, I would share a little reflection on insomnia and the paradox of mindfulness. So, the paradox of mindfulness is, in a nutshell, that sometimes when we want things to change, we need to stay exactly where we are. And that by trying to make things change, we're often less likely to get any change. So, for instance, when we feel anxious, sometimes we try to not feel anxious by kind of almost trying to think our way out of it. And in doing so, we end up more anxious. And when it comes to sleep, when we try to get to sleep, the effect is often that we're more likely to be awake because it's quite stressful to try to sleep. So we've probably all had the experience of trying to sleep. Maybe we're lying in bed and we're thinking, oh, I've got to be up in 5 hours. I've got to be up in 4 hours. I've got to be up in 3 hours. I'm going to be so tired when I get up. I might end up sleeping through my alarm. Why can't I sleep? Everybody else can sleep. Those kinds of thoughts. And the more we think like that, the more we try to sleep, the less likely it is that we'll sleep. So instead of that, if we lie in bed and we go, okay, I'm in bed, I'm awake, I am aware that I'm awake, I'm warm enough, I have a lovely duvet, I have lovely cushions, I have a teddy. We connect with what's actually happening in the moment and maybe a sense of gratitude, but we just allow ourselves to be awake. We're more likely to sleep because we're not adding all of that tension on top. So essentially it's a combination of two attitudes that I think we're bringing in that might help us here. It's the attitude of non-striving. So non-striving is not trying to force things to happen. So we're not trying to force sleep to happen because it just doesn't work like that. And letting go is where we let go of the need for anything to be different, but we also let go of the things that might be holding us back from sleep. So it might be a worry, it might be tension, it might be just letting go of the thought, I need to get to sleep. So I want to lead a little practice that I find quite helpful, which is simply observing the breath. One of the things I find quite helpful is simply to observe the breath and count my breaths. And I might lie in bed and go, I'm going to see if I can count 100 breaths. Don't know if I've ever succeeded without falling asleep. But the trick is not to do it in order to sleep. It's to just do it and see what happens. Because as soon as we start trying to sleep, it's less likely to happen. brains are very strange. So just settle into, I'm not going to demonstrate a whole 100. I'm just going to demonstrate connecting with the breath and letting go of tension. And my invitation to you is to try that next time you're awake at the early hours of the morning. Just see what it feels like. So just settle into a posture, sitting, lying, whatever feels right for you. And lightly close your eyes if that feels comfortable. We're going to start off scanning the body for any tension. So noticing around the head and face. And if there's any tension, you may be able to let go, or you might imagine any tension draining away. You might particularly notice the jaw. And if you notice tension here, see if you can let it go. Or imagine that tension draining away. Bringing your attention into the neck. And we often hold tension in the neck. If you notice it, see if you can let go. Or see if you can imagine that tension draining away. Bring your attention to the shoulders. And just notice if there's any tension here. And if you notice any, see if you can let it go. Or imagine any tension draining away. Bringing your attention to the arms. Notice if there's any tension here. And if you find it, seeing if you can let go. Or imagine the tension draining away. Bring your attention to the hands. If you notice tension here, see if you can let go. Or imagine the tension draining away. And observing the torso, the chest, the abdomen, the spine, the back of the ribs, the lower back and the waist. Feeling the breath, noticing if you're holding tension, letting go if you can. Or imagining any tension draining away. And bringing your attention to the hips, the pelvis, the buttocks. Observing any tension, letting go if you can. Or imagining any tension draining away. And noticing sensations in the legs, the thighs, the knees, the calves. If you notice tension, you might be able to let go. Or imagine any tension draining away. And finally the feet. Noticing any tension, letting go if you can. Or imagining any tension draining away. And then turning to your breath and simply counting the breaths. Taking a breath in, breathing out, 1. Taking a breath in and out, 2. Breathing in, breathing out, 3. So dropping in a number after each out breath. In this practice, simply counting 10 breaths, letting go of any thoughts as they arise, and bringing your attention back to the breath. And when you've reached 10 breaths, just letting go of the practice and opening your eyes. So if you're practicing this in bed, you might choose to just continue. Count the breaths until you get to 100 or until you fall asleep. And it might work, it might not work, it might not be helpful to think of it in terms of working and not working. It might stop you adding all of the stress and the strain and the worry to not sleeping. So you're just awake, and that's okay. And everybody experiences insomnia sometimes. I think sometimes we can feel really alone when we're awake in the early hours of the morning. And yet, we all experience it. Whatever time of day or night it is, there will be somebody else. Maybe in the next room, in the next building, there'll be somebody else still awake. But certainly someone in the country or the world will be awake right now, as you are. And everyone will have experienced it at some point. And we're in the middle of lockdown, in the middle of a pandemic. And that, for a lot of us, the underlying anxiety and stress and worry, that's going to be in there. Even if we're not consciously thinking about it, there is an underlying stress level that maybe it's quite new to be feeling it in quite this way. So it's normal. Doesn't mean we're doing anything wrong, and you're not alone. So I'm going to try again to get to sleep. I'm not going to try, I'm just going to see what happens. I've got a book if I don't. And I'm going to appreciate having a warm bed and the opportunity to make this video. So thank you, everyone. And remember, you're not alone.